Norse in Wonderland, when nothing's as it seems. Norse in Wonderland, the truth will haunt your dreams. Norse in Wonderland, when nothing's as it seems. Norse in Wonderland, the truth will haunt your dreams.
Welcome back to Norse in Wonderland, where we dive into history's official stories, find the stitching, and see what's been sewn over. Today's side quest takes us to 325 CE, where politics and faith collided in the Council of Nicaea, a meeting that didn't just decide theology, it decided which version of God would survive. But first, you know the rules. 3 jokes before the heresy starts. Nothing says divine truth like locking a bunch of bishops in a room until they agree with the emperor. The Council of Nicaea, proving that even in the 4th century, committee meetings were long, petty, and probably needed more snacks. Imagine traveling hundreds of miles on horseback just to argue about the Trinity, and still losing the debate. It's the year 325 CE. The Roman Empire is under Constantine the Great, the same emperor who had legalized Christianity just over a decade earlier with the Edict of Milan. But Christianity in the 4th century was not one unified religion. It was a loose collection of competing movements, each with its own writings, its own interpretation of Jesus, and its own leaders. For Constantine, this wasn't just a theological mess, it was a political problem. He wanted one faith, one doctrine, and one unified church that could also serve as a stabilizing force for the empire. Because unity makes governance easier, and disagreement is bad for business, especially imperial business. The official purpose of the council was to resolve the Arian controversy, a dispute about whether Jesus was divine from eternity or created at some point in time. But that was only the surface level agenda. Behind closed doors, the council worked to standardize Christian doctrine into something officially Roman. They drafted what would become the Nicene Creed, a statement of faith that served as a theological filter. If you didn't agree with it, you were labeled a heretic. This was also the beginning of what we now call canonization, the process of deciding which books, gospels, and letters would be considered inspired scripture and which ones would be erased from memory. Many writings, especially those from Gnostic and Jewish Christian sects, were banned, hidden, or outright destroyed. Constantine wasn't a theologian. Theologian. In fact, he wasn't even baptized until his deathbed. We're just going to move on. But he chaired the council, influenced the debates, and exiled bishops who refused to agree with the final decisions. By using religion as a political tool, Constantine transformed Christianity from a persecuted underground movement into an imperial institution, one that served Rome's interests. Faith became law, belief became policy, and disagreement became treason. This is where we need to break from the official church narrative. By today's definitions, Jesus wasn't a Christian. Christianity as a religion didn't exist until after his death. He also wasn't a Jew in the modern ethnic and religious sense we think of today. Jesus was born into a Jewish cultural context, but his teachings frequently challenged the religious establishment of his time. He criticized temple authorities, ignored purity laws, broke Sabbath rules, and reached out to people who were considered religious outsiders. By the standards of his era, he was a radical, a rebel against both political and religious authority. If anything, Jesus appears to have rejected the idea of rigid religious institutions altogether. His focus was on lived ethics, personal transformation, and direct connection to the divine, not on subscribing to an organized belief system, which makes the Council of Nicaea's movement to turn his life into a standardized imperial religion all the more ironic. The Nicene Creed became the official litmus test for true Christianity. Those who didn't sign on were exiled, their writings destroyed, and their followers suppressed. Over the centuries, the decisions made at Nicaea would shape Western religion, eliminate alternative narratives, and lock Christianity into a form that served empire before it served its founders' radical vision. How different would Christianity look today if the banned Gospels and writings had survived? Was the Council of Nicaea truly about defining faith, or was it about consolidating imperial control? If Jesus were alive today, would he recognize or even join the religion that claims his name? I see through the edits and the rewrites. I hold the truth that cannot be voted on. My connection to the divine is unmediated, unowned, and unbroken. Whether you see the Council of Nicaea as a triumph of unity or a takeover of faith, its legacy is clear. It rewrote God in the image of empire. And as always, if anything happens to me, it's more than a convenient accident and I didn't do it myself. I am happy, healthy, and cautious.
Chasing the rabbit, down we must go. Where does it end? Nobody knows. Hurry up now, we're running out of time. You better keep up or get left behind.